Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I thought I would share with you all my in progress sketchbooks, and we could talk a little bit about how I use them to maintain my daily art practice. Okay guys, so if you've been around for a while, you know that I like working in sketchbooks, but I don't know if I've ever completely explained why I work in sketchbooks or how I work in sketchbooks, because for me, I guess I've been doing daily art for about 4 years now, and the reason that I do it is to get better, and the way that I get better is focused practice, and the tool that I use for my focused practice is my sketchbook. And so I thought it might be fun to share with you guys all the sketchbooks that I'm currently working in, tell you a little bit about how I use each one, and maybe also come to some realizations and discoveries around why I can never finish a sketchbook. So yeah, so let's do that. Okay, so we're gonna start off with one that I've shared a few times on my channel, and one that actually I haven't picked it up in a while. This is a 3x5 Handbook brand sketchbook with off-white drawing paper that is surprisingly thick. And this book was critical to my practice in a couple of ways. The purpose of this one was to be my warm-up sketchbook. It was gonna help me get past that tiny bit of anxiety that sometimes we can have every time we start a new day of drawing. And this one, it helped me get past that anxiety. It helped me get my hands and my eyes working together. And in hindsight, it did a couple of other things that I didn't really expect. One is it actually got me to loosen up a little bit, both in kind of getting over my fear of my very irrational fear of working past the gutter in a sketchbook. But also my kind of tightness when I would worry about getting a likeness of each dog. So for each portrait, I would do this small scale. I think helped free me up, because at this scale you can't really get into all those little nitty-gritty details. So I was just happy to get the overall personality of each dog. So I think that in a way really helped. And eventually this practice just became such a habit that I didn't even have to consciously practice it anymore. I mean, these days, most of the time I just walk into the studio and grab something and get started, which is probably why I haven't actually finished this little guy. There are probably about 10 pages at the end here. I should just finish it off. But yeah, this one I think is one that I might be moving on from. So next up, we've got the most recent sketchbook that I've started. You actually saw this one in maybe 2 videos ago. It's the 5x5 inch Handbook brand with the smooth drawing paper. It's thinner paper than the previous sketchbook, but I think it would still hold up to paint if I tried it. But anyway, this was a weird one. I started at a weird time. It was the start of the year and I just needed a fresh start. I wanted to jump into a book that didn't have anything else going on in it. So the first few pages are just some poster studies that I was doing to warm up, and then I sketched a random dog, and then and a couple of other things here. It's pretty normal for me to start without a clear purpose, but eventually I will settle into one, and I think this one's kind of becoming my on-the-go sketchbook. So if I'm like waiting in a waiting room or in a cafe or on an art date or whatever, this is just the perfect size to throw in my bag and have with me on those days when there might not otherwise be time for art. Okay, let's get this next one out of the way because, I mean, it's an important one, but I only just barely started it, guys. So this one is my travel sketchbook, and this is another handbook. It's a 5x8 inch landscape format, and I thought it would be fun to have a book that I could use to play with some of my vacation pics. I think it's important to have a variety of options with these sketchbooks, especially an option that's like completely different from my normal practice. And this will be one that I love to have available when the mood strikes, and I'll really enjoy looking back on it later, I'm sure, but I'm not going to give it much thought on a daily basis. As you can see, I have just one painting in here, 2 more sketches, and that's it. So yeah, so this one's pretty new. All right, so then we have another 5x8 handbook brand in a portrait format, and this one is my experimental sketchbook. So this is the one that I grab if I'm like taking a one-off class, like in botanicals or pen drawing or whatever it happens to be. If I'm sketching out a prompt for an art challenge, or if I need to jot down an idea in a thumbnail. It's like my messy sketchbook, and it's really pretty messy. It's the kind of sketchbook that kind of makes me cringe to look at, but it's really a necessity if I want to keep learning and experimenting while maintaining my focus practice, like at its own pace. I almost feel like I have attention issues when I look at this book because there's just so much in here and it feels really random compared to my other books. Like in the other ones, you're going to see how I'm attempting to solve problems or tackle like very specific challenges through repetition of application over and over on each page. So I think when I look at this book, it's like a reminder that it's okay and we need a place to get out all of our random thoughts so that we can be focused in other areas without getting bored of those other areas or feeling like they're just becoming too tedious. Okay, now we're getting into some of the bigger books. And this one here, this is a pretty popular brand. This is the Talens Art Creation brand in a 9x12 inch portrait format. And I think this is actually my favorite size book. I think it's my most comfortable size to work at. And again, this is an off-white paper, rounded corners. It's kind of a theme for me. That's definitely a preference. But this paper is not actually as thick as the Handbook brand, though it is pretty affordable. I think these are actually, I think all of the sketchbooks I have are all under $20. So yeah, so this sketchbook was meant to be my block-in practice book. And so what that means is not only am I working on my drawings and proportions and likeness and all of that, but I'm also working on like my language for identifying and capturing light and shadow patterns specifically for painting. So when I started this book, one of the things I was struggling with was how much to capture in an underdrawing. And I would sometimes not describe enough and have to constantly be referring to my photos to understand how to paint something. Or I would go to the opposite and I would go too far in rendering and trying to describe every little hue and shade before feeling like I could start painting. And so in this book, what I wanted to do was to kind of find that sweet spot where I had just enough information in the drawing to describe the form, but not so much that like I would get totally overwhelmed, or even worse, I would just lose all of that work as soon as I put down the first paint strokes. So I think I got about halfway through this book when I started to feel like I had enough confidence in my drawing, my underdrawings and my block ends to kind of move on. I'm saving this for the next thing I need to practice, which might be full compositional designs using pattern and typography. I really love the idea of incorporating more of those kinds of elements into my work, and I can easily see this sketchbook with like spreads that hold maybe a bunch of thumbnails on like the left hand side and then like a fully rendered full composition on the right hand side. So yeah, so this will be one that I'll be making that I'll be returning to. This one's going to make a comeback into my regular practice very soon. Okay, so this last one is probably my most favorite at the moment. This is my Ranger Dylusions 9 by 12 inch sketchbook in portrait format, and this is my oil painting sketchbook. So I mentioned with the last sketchbook that I was working on blocking in specifically for painting, and so this is the sketchbook that I moved into when I felt like I had kind of established that block-in language that I was trying to create. So I moved my block-in practice over here with the intent that at some point down the road I'd come back and actually paint each of these sketches. And so the whole idea with this book was just to reduce the friction of getting started with my oil paints, because as much as I loved them and as much as I said I wanted to oil paint every day, I was really finding it really hard to just get them out and actually do it. And so this way, I can almost use this as like my personal coloring book. It's my personal workbook, and I can just turn to a page, find a sketch, jump right in, and start painting. The other key with this sketchbook is that since the drawings were done ahead of time and I'm not looking at the reference anymore, a lot of times I don't even have the reference anymore, I can really focus on the painting technique here without getting distracted by trying to match like the likeness of the subject or anything like that. So as long as my block-in was good, I should have more than enough information to understand the form here, so I really can just concentrate and focus on my technique, which is the whole point of practicing in this book. Okay, so that's all of them. So what am I gonna do next? Do I actually feel like I can finish these sketchbooks? Some of them, yes. Some of them very quickly. Yeah, I think I could finish them. Like this one, I think I could finish probably next week. Some of them are gonna take a while, especially the ones that I just started. Also the oil painting sketchbook, because that one's gonna be double the work of probably the rest of them. But yeah, I do think I can finish them. And here's the other thing. Even if I can't, if I feel like I need another sketchbook for another specific purpose, I have no problem getting started. So for instance, I have this Fabriano artist journal. Now this one's got really pretty paper in it, tones from tan to beige to cream to white. If I feel like I want to start doing specific drawings like pastel or charcoal drawings, this is probably a sketchbook that I would reach for and I would start, and I would have no problem doing that. This could be one that I could see myself getting started even before I've finished any of these. I also have been thinking about starting a watercolor sketchbook, which I can't do with any of these. So if that was something that I was going to start, I would need to specifically get a watercolor sketchbook. And yeah, so that might be another one that I start. One thing that I have really been giving a lot of thought to is starting an art journal. So not necessarily like a practice sketchbook, but just an art journal, because I do need one place where I can just put whatever I'm thinking, like whatever I'm feeling, that doesn't necessarily have to do with my practice, but it's just something that I want to do just because I want to do it, and I don't want to necessarily take up pages in a book that's meant for something else. So I probably will be, but if that is something that I do, guys, I want to make my art journal. I definitely have been interested in kind of making a book for myself. I've got a lot of paper, like single sheets of paper. I've even got some handmade paper, like paper that I even made. Like I think that would be a lot of fun. So I'm not going to say that I'm definitely going to do it, but I'm probably going to do it. But of course, if I do, I'll bring you guys along. I'll show you the process. Yeah, that'll be fun. Okay guys, so that's it for me today. I hope you had fun going through my sketchbooks. I hope you enjoy sketchbooking. If you're here, you probably like to sketchbook. You're probably keeping a sketchbook. Maybe you're struggling with some of the things that I'm struggling with. Maybe you don't. Maybe you have no problem finishing a sketchbook. You're like, you think I'm crazy? I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But let me know. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know if you guys have a specific, like if you've had any quirky ways that you like to keep a sketchbook. I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of weird when it comes to my sketchbooks. If you guys do it like I do, let me know. If you don't do it like I do, let me know. I would love to hear about it. All right, guys. But yeah, that's all I have. So don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more. And yeah, I'll see you soon.